Morning. Very difficult to end this session, when so many people have said so many things of value. What value do I add? So all Mr. Arun, Shyam, Julian, and Nitin Bansal. Uh, a lot has been said about the technology and the potential that technology has. Uh, for me, it's my 36th year in this sector. I joined way back in 1989, and I've been running in communications, maybe 4 or 5 years even in the postal communications, but been looking at this sector for a very, very long time. From the times that we were working as operators, and Shyam would remember those days that we worked as incumbent operators. Uh, in between, the mobile industry took birth sometime in 1994, completed 30 years of very vigorous business in India last year. It's been a story of continuous technological innovation, development, continuous growth in terms of bringing in new subscribers, bringing in new business, and generating better returns. Though there have been ups and downs in the last 20, 30 years that we have been through, but most operators have come around with flying colors. And as I can say today, that the industry is inching towards the 4 lakh crore mark. When I came in here, I was telling the Honorable Minister in those years in 22 that we are inching towards the 3 lakh crore gross revenue. Now I can confidently say maybe this year or the next year we'll push over the 4 lakh crore mark also in terms of gross revenues from this sector. So evidently it's growing at a good speed, probably growing at the speed that GDP is growing in our country. Now about 5G. Well, we had the fastest rollout. We had 21 reforms with the Honorable Minister of State for Communications laid out in front of you, and the kind of money that it let out in terms of capex to all the operators, and which partly financed the wonderful rollout that our operators did over the last 3 years. And now there are question marks as to how to continue with that speed of capex, largely because all these investments also require a return. And capital is very fickle. It tends to come and go away depending on the return that you actually give to that money that is invested. So government, in various ways, in freeing up through ease of business rules, in freeing up capital for the sector, ensuring that there are lesser regulatory burdens on the operators, and also in some ways filling up the gaps. Those operators that have not been able to compete in this market through our public sector initiative of BSNL, the government has actually been investing cash to ensure that BSNL also comes to the mark to be able to make a foray in 5G technology. Since together 4 or 5 operators, they cover the entire country, and to make this 5G growth inclusive, it is necessary that all of them prosper. And that is why probably you would have read a few days back, the Honorable Minister of Communication has also said that we'll continue to support all operators, that they are able to enter the field of 5G and ensure the kind of convergence that we are talking about, and ensure that all these technologies also grow with the right kind of investments and right kind of strategies for getting returns on those investments. So what is being debated is the monetization of 5G. I mean, if you recall the early days, maybe somewhere around 2010 or 12, when it was a per minute based voice call ecosystem and data was still getting introduced. We are in TRAI trying to understand what it entails, and then we realize that the volume of data, the way it grows, the yields eventually are much lower, largely because of our own pricing strategies and the way we want to retain customers. Because it's not always the cost, it's also the willingness and the ability to pay at the other side, at the user end, which is very, very significant. So when 5G was introduced, it was understood that 4G was driven by this video boom and the data boom that happened. So some of it will continue into the 5G, and I think a lot of it is still driving the 5G growth. But we were looking at significant growth in the enterprise business, and that is where probably this convergence of AI and IoT in terms of making processes more productive, in terms of improving our productive capacities. Those are areas that need to be looked into, and I hope in the very near future we'll be able to make some some new applications in these areas, which will integrate AI and IoT into the existing service delivery ecosystem. It is very important that the end user sees significant value additions in what we offer in terms of products, in terms of AI and IoT. And for that, innovation needs to match any investment. And that is the innovation that we are all looking at. That is why so much attention now on research and development, on test labs. The government itself is putting a lot of effort to enhance capacities for research and development within the country. I think the Honorable Minister of Communication has been publicly speaking as to how much government would like to support manufacturing, to enable the manufacturing ecosystem to develop within the country. Also develop research and development so that it helps in building new standards, new protocols, and then eventually leading to new products that lead to greater or maybe even separate revenue streams on the same network. So the network is ready. Innovation on the edge will lead to greater and greater revenue streams. I remember when 2G, and we are probably shifting to 3G, in those days we used to have buffer revenue streams, things like SMS, which was about 4% of the revenue, or roaming revenues, which used to be 8 to 10% of the revenue. So however much the hyper competition was in the normal plans, these revenues were pretty stable in nature, and they would provide a certain buffer to all the operators. I'm not sure whether the same situation may exist for AI and IoT products, but it's a possibility that the usage and development of products and how vigorously it is used on our network may give us some kind of a buffer which is outside the hyper competition that we have in our markets, where prices are sometimes disappointing for the operators who are here. Of course, GSMA has been studying these aspects, and they have also said that with every generation change, the ratio of capex to the revenue keeps coming to the disadvantage of an operator. But with greater technological development, it is true that all these generation changes are getting shorter. So I remember the 2G was almost endless in its existence, and then the 3G was reduced to about 6, 7, 8 years of yield. 4G even shorter. 5G we are already anticipating in 2030 it will end. So there is a need to make innovations to ensure that there are larger revenue streams available to operators. Two or three things. One is, of course, the use of this AI and IoT in network optimization and maintenance. It leads to savings of costs, which is another way to improve your economic viability. Enterprise customers, an area of focus, perhaps has not yielded as much as it should, and that's one area where there was a lot of expectation when 5G investments were being made. Then you have areas like network slicing. It's just about getting traction, and I think Bansal mentioned slicing as one of the aspects of technology that is likely to be used. So that's one area of potential, and I hope in the future we'll have greater usage of that. The last thing I want to say is that networks, trust, safety, authentication of transactions, security of networks, which I think all speakers have mentioned, this itself provides a lot of security, faith in the network that we build. And probably in future it will also become a service in itself, a revenue stream in itself. So in the end, I wish everybody a very good day today, and perhaps when you are able to discuss and debate all these items, you'll probably be able to give a direction to how 5G will yield more in terms of revenues, in terms of returns on the kind of investments we are having. Besides, and I'm sure almost all the regulatory measures that we are taking is meant to make 5G grow for the next 3-4 years and ensure a smooth transition to the next generation, which is the 6G, sometime in 2030. Thank you very much, and I wish the best to all of you. Thank you.